Alright, I'll just make this video short because I'm just looking for buyers in the short term. So going into the month of August, I've not really gotten my premise or my buyers for the month of August. So what I'm going to talk about here today is just what I'm looking for tomorrow Friday. Where I'm looking for price to reach to for tomorrow Friday, and I'll be trading that as well. So for the dollar index, no, I got nothing here. So what I got nothing. But what I'm really thinking is, I think all these are rebalancing flows. All these are rebalancing flows. That's what I think because if you look at the um, okay, if you look at this the rate probability, you can see before the FOMC, think here, let's say a week ago, high probability was 59%, but the Fed they choose not to hike. I think they choose to pause, to choose to pause hike. And I said before the FOMC that I won't trade because I expect it to be messy. I expect it to be messy because normally I myself I don't really expect the Fed to to sound positive like that kind of thing. So I expected it to not be messy for the dollar, the Nasdaq as well. I expected it to be messy. So I decided to stay out. I decided to stay out. So looking at everything, even with positioning, if you look at the positioning for the dollar, if you look how the dollar dropped, how it tanked post FOMC for forex. So if you look at how the dollar index, just dropped after the FOMC. If we come to the positioning data for the dollar, you can see it's bullish carded. So I think this drop right here for the dollar is just rebalancing the market. The institutions rebalancing their positions. That's what I think, and also it's month end, so it kind of makes sense. So going into tomorrow Friday, I don't really think the dollar will have much volatility compared to that of Wednesday and what we saw today, Thursday. If it will reach for this low, I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure because right now this is high resistance. Because if you look from this low to this high, that's the defined range. So all these short-term consolidation run to this buy side and drop. So this one was still in the same range. It could reach for this low, but I'm not really keen on that going into Friday. So back to what I'm looking for tomorrow Friday, what I'll be trading. I'll be trading the Nasdaq because if we go to the if we go to the positioning data and overall, I think for the past 2 weeks or so, the semiconductor and the war between the US and Iran has really been weighing on the Nasdaq more compared to the S&P 500. And because if you look at the S&P, you can see uh, its downward movement is consolidating to the downside in the if you look at it in the daily time frame. You can see, but if you look at that for the Nasdaq, you can see it's dropping consecutively over the past I think 5 or 6 days. It's been dropping. But that for the S&P 500 is a bit messy. It's not really smooth like that of the Nasdaq. So since I think it's all related to it's all related to the market, trying to rebalance their position. So I think when since the Nasdaq, fell more prior to going into the that is going into the this last week of July, that is month-end flow week. Since the Nasdaq fell more, if it's relating to rebalancing, I think the Nasdaq will be more volatile to the upside compared to the S&P 500, because if you look at the S&P 500, it has not really been dropping massively compared to the Nasdaq. So I think going into this month-end flow week, if institutions should look to rebalance, I think the Nasdaq will, we see some upside more compared to the S&P 500. So and that's why I'm not really looking at the position. Although position in the S&P 500 is bearish, and I think it's short. It's stretched up, but it's not very very stretched. Like it's not bearish crowded. So also it kind of makes sense buying the S&P 500 and with the current gimmicks about Fed looking to not wanting to hike, and with the miss in I think the miss in data on the PCE, the miss in the PCE and the advanced GDP. I think that's really supports the narrative behind the S&P 500 or the Nasdaq. But if you look at the Nasdaq, you can see it's bullish. It's bullish. So likely as of okay, yeah, likely as of last week they started they started piling up longs going into the mountain. They started piling up longs. So likely, yeah, of course they have the best, they have the best fundamental interpretation, the best understanding. They have them, the best tools. They also have them. So I think going into the mountain flows, like going into this week, they started piling up longs in the Nasdaq. So maybe, but maybe we could see this Nasdaq just uh just continue like this to this one going into the month of like August, like yeah. But let's not just look at that for a moment. Let's look at this range here. So I'm not trying to forecast the kind of long term bias right now for the month of August. I'm just looking for a low hanging fruit, something that I can just reach for. I can just go in, get out. So this is what I'm looking for. This high here, this price level is what I'm looking for going into Friday tomorrow. So tomorrow in the AM session, I'll look to buy the Nasdaq. I don't expect it to go below this level right here. So tomorrow AM session, I'll look to buy the Nasdaq. It makes a pullback. Just buy it on target this highs here, this liquidity. Because if you look at it from a market maker perspective, this double top and prior opposed to after this double top, you can see how the market fell massively. So I think after this double top, there are retail traders that are that are shorting this. There are a lot of shorting this, and since there are retail traders shorting this, where will their stop be? Their stop will be above these highs, this double top highs. That's where their stop will be. So retail traders they shorted this and they held into the FOMC, which they made a lot of money for those. Yeah, they made a lot of money for those that close. Let me just put it that way. But if you notice after the FOMC, you can see how this market just dropped. So those persons, retail traders that were holding their shorts here, their stop loss just above these highs here, you can see this drop in price here. This drop in price is like a sugar to them. They'll be like, wow, wow. It's like this market is going to continue dropping. That kind of thing. So That's just the narrative. That's just the narrative for them. So they'll be like, this market is going to continue dropping. So all of a sudden, on Thursday, we just see the market, make a high, then discount that high, then begins to push to the upside. And if you see how the market pushed to the upside, it pushed in a way that you won't expect. You won't expect it. That's the truth. You won't expect it. So those that are short here now, their stocks will be on this high. So since the market is coming to this level here, they'll be expecting the Nasdaq to reverse. So they expect Nasdaq to from here to reverse to the downside. So they'll be holding their their short positions. Let me look at the sentiment. I think it's a written sentiment tracker. Let me look at it for the indices. So it kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense. Kind of makes sense right now. So I don't see any reason to short the Nasdaq going into Friday tomorrow. I don't want to start, forecasting long term. I'm talking about tomorrow Friday. Tomorrow Friday, 30, on the 31st. So I going into Friday, I don't really see any reason trying to short the Nasdaq. I don't want to forecast for a long term. Do a video for August, my bias for August, or for next week. Normally, I'm a swing and a day trader. I'm more of a scalper as well. I don't really do position trading. That's so. Going into next week, I'll share my bias. So I'll share it on Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. I think it's NFP week, so maybe before Monday. Yeah, even with the current narrative, right? I think on Monday we can trade on Monday to the upside, but I won't talk about that now. I'll talk about that on Sunday. So back to what we were talking about initially. So let's go to for the indices. Let's see the retail position. I'll find it here. Okay, Nasdaq. Okay. Okay. You can see for the S&P, the retail they are piling, they are short for the that is for the S&P 500. You can see they are short. So let's look for the Nasdaq. Yes, even without looking at the retail sentiment tracker, just by mere looking at the chart, I can decipher the position of retail traders. Let's look for. This still hasn't loaded. Okay, let's look for. Okay, the NAS they are you can see, okay, NAS they are long or another. But if you look at the S&P, they are short. So it's still kind of it still kind of makes sense, to to buy as well because those that are selling the S&P 500, that's problem for them. So the Nasdaq, I think majority of them are long. Majority of them are long. So, but likewise, going into tomorrow Friday, I'm just looking for this high end Nasdaq. Then the S&P 500, looking for this high just for tomorrow. Mind you, this S&P could just continue and cross and feel this imbalance here. We could cross it. There is this area that I shaded. Just cross it. So that's what I'm just looking for what I'm looking to trade tomorrow. Tomorrow Friday on the 31st of July. I'll be specifically focusing on the Nasdaq. Look for a buy in the AM session. Yeah, because that's it. Because since retail traders are heavily short here, so likely, and this is a double top. I think London session could be slow. Yeah, and that's sluggishness I expect from the London session tomorrow Friday. I think that that will paint the we create the sentiment in the retail traders mindset, or for those that are short here, that maybe this market wants want to start dropping, because once the market push to the upside in great speed, let me not say great speed, in a volatile manner or momentum, and it begins to consolidate, there's a that consolidation creates sentiments in the mind of the trader that that market wants to reverse. But in this case, I don't see any reason why the market should reverse. So tomorrow, look to buy the Nasdaq to this high. So that's all for me. I try as much as possible not to make this video long, but I still want to give some reasons why I am taking this bias and why I'm trading this. So I hope you guys find this insightful, and until next time, I wish you guys good trading. This is Trade Digital Capital. So that's it. If excuse me, if I should can I add let me see how the risk to reward. Sorry, let's see. Okay. So let's assume bought here. Okay, sorry. Yeah, this is our stop loss will be. Our entry be here, and that will be our target. So what will be the risk to reward? The risk to reward is 1:2. Makes sense. Not bad. Not bad at all. But I'm not fixed on buying here. If the market reached for this level in the London session, I won't look to buy it. I'll wait for the AM session to buy the Nasdaq. So that's all from me. If you want to get this here, I'll drop the this week's manager. I'll drop the link in the description. So I hope you guys find this insightful, and this is just me trying my bias. So always learn to know risk what you can afford to lose. Good trading, and I wish you guys good luck.